What is up, you guys? I feel like when I'm in the car, it's like, what's up, you guys? When I'm in my house, it's what's up, booktube. I'm not sure what that's about, but it is a little after noon-ish on, what is today? Today's Wednesday. I think today's a Wednesday because yesterday was Tuesday, and that's how days of the week work. I am about to go back to the library. I'm trying to be good. I'm trying to be a good person here because I'm really only trying to have books checked out that I'm reading for next year's content, which is also like low-key the last year I want to do this. I've been thinking a lot lately about like, what does retirement really mean? Because I keep saying, I'm going to retire, but I might come back. I'm going to retire, but I might come back. And what I've settled on is what I'm really searching for here is a balance. I'm not going to have this balance in 2023 because I'm really set on making all of these videos. Like I'm set, I want to do it. But what I think I want going forward, like post 2023, what I want on my channel is just like, I want the long form content. I like long videos. So that's going to be that will probably happen. And I do like the long content that is thematic in some nature, like reading somebody's favorites or like the Buzzwordathon. Like I like that. And I like the idea of like, maybe there'll be 12 of those kinds of videos. Maybe there'll be 6 of those kinds of videos, but that's what I want over here. Because what I'm thinking is like, because the Patreon's not going to change. Like, I'm still going to continue to read over there and share my thoughts with books over there. And like, maybe it's like a hard pivot over there. It's like, that's where like the shorter kind of things are. Because what I have found each year that I've been on BookTube is that at first it was a lot of like, this is what I read. This is what I'm sharing with the people. This is what I'm sharing. And obviously, the more that you read on BookTube and like the more that people you follow and recommendations you get, it does become, I don't want to say a rat race, but it does become, it's harder to balance. Like, this is the thing that I'm interested in. This is the thing people are talking about. And where do I find myself in the balance between the things people are talking about that I want to have an opinion about and the things that are like, I'm just going to continue to be over here. And I do think that an argument can be made for both camps because I know that there are some people who are over in the I'm gonna read what I want to read, and I see their channels and they do successful and they're like having a good old time, and I see the people over here who are reading what the people want to be reading and they're doing fine, they're being successful, and I'm just like stuck in the middle, not knowing how to do either one. I find myself in the libraries. Every time I talk about like why reading vlogs are horrible, I talk about how it's really hard for me to pick up a book. I feel like when I'm looking at a book, the very first thing is, does it have a pretty cover? Does it have a pretty cover? That's always the first thing. And the second thing is, does it sound interesting? But the third thing, and like this third thing might be third, but sometimes it's more important. It's like, what can I make out of that? Like, I look at the book and I'm interested in the book, of course, but it's like, can I make content? Is there content potential in this book? Is it going to fit into a video idea that I already had planned? Can I take this book and extrapolate it to 3 or 4 other books and make a video out of that? Can I do this thing with the book? And if the answer to any one of those questions is no, like, no, I cannot make content out of the book. No, it doesn't fit into a pre-existing plan. No, there's no extrapolations. This book is so niche that if I try to put in another kind of a video, it wouldn't work. And so sometimes those books just don't get read. And then you'll have a situation like I had earlier this year where I was going to read political fanfic books because I was in Aaron's 24-hour readathon and somehow we got into this conversation. I think those sprint replays are still up on her channel. So if you go watch the sprint replays, I'm sure it's in like the midday ones. I think it was one with Becca. I think Becca was there. And for some reason, we got into this conversation, and somebody said that Young Jane Young by Gabrielle Zevin, American Wife, and obviously Rodham by Curtis Sittenfeld were American Wife and Rodham are both by Curtis Sittenfeld. Young Jane Young is by Gabrielle Zevin. Those 3 books were pitched to me as political fanfic, and I said, that sounds like an excellent bookish, like that sounds like a beautiful book idea or a video idea. So I read 2 of those books. I'm gonna talk about them. Some end of the year content, so spoiler alert there. But the 3rd book just never got read. I never read the 3rd book for that, and so that video never happened. And so I spent all of this time, and I think it was like September, maybe it was August, I don't remember. Again, go watch the replays. And I spent all like a week of my time reading these books for a video that just never happened. And wrap-ups, I feel like they're going the way of the dodo. They're going the way of the dodo. Here and everywhere. I feel like everywhere I watch, everywhere I tune to, someone is trying to reinvent the wrap-up, because the wrap-up is not I think when BookTube, when we were on here reading like 10 books a month, it was sustainable. And I know the romance community, they be doing like mid-month wrap-ups, end-of-the-month wrap-ups, and like I feel like even over there, it has to be hard. But as BookTube has grown, and as people are out here reading 30 books a month, whether that's, 10 graphic novels and 20 novels, or whatever combination of short story novellas, anthologies, articles that they found intriguing that they want to bring to their audience, whatever the amalgamation is, whatever that collage looks like, after like 10 books, doing a wrap-up just starts to feel like this isn't even possible. And so many months this year, I was reading like 5 books. I was reading like almost 20. And sitting down to like run through 20 books with somebody is just not entertaining. So I found myself kind of like leaning on the fact that I was making content with these themes, because I know Chandler does a thing where like she puts out the content, right? And then she sits down in her car at the end of the month for her wrap-ups, but she only talks about books that she read that she didn't have in content. But for me, there was no time where I was reading something that wasn't for a video. I was reading for the patron video, which I like doing. I like the fact that they get to vote on things and it feels a little interactive. Hopefully, after 2023, like I will figure out a more 2023, we're reintroducing the Patreon experience. We're reintroducing like some more, time togetherness. So hopefully in 2024, it'll feel like even better, and I'll have like better ideas and suggestions for the reading vlogs, or even doing the sprints. I'll be exposed to some new books that I could, toss in there for their reading vlogs or whatever. But I find that there was never a time where I was reading a book just because I wanted to read a book, and I had no designs on making a video out of it. Even when I read like The Last Housewife by Ashley Winstead, it was a book that I had seen floating around. I was interested in it. I liked the cover. It had housewife in the name. I was in it. And then as I was reading the book, I said, oh, well, I have to make content out of this. I have to make a review. And I love a standalone video review, but I'm also like getting to this point where it's like, I don't think it's sustainable for every book I read. And I say this as a person who's going into 2023 about to document literally every book. Anyway, so delusion, again, broken brain syndrome. So I think that that's really where my problem is. My problem really is that I have failed in an effort to create content on a monthly basis. I have stumbled into this thing where if I am reading, the book has to be for content. And I have friends who like read things in private, and they talk about, oh yeah, I read this, but it was for me. Like I read this, in private. I read it for myself, whatever terminology they want to use. And I'd be like, you can do that? Like you can, obviously private for me I would always post a review on Goodreads. Me and Goodreads are like this. I might have a reading spreadsheet that I love and adore, and I'm moving into Notion a little bit. I'm testing the Notion waters, and I'm using that to like track things and, organize my life a little bit. But me and Goodreads are like this. I'm going to go down, like, those little people who are distinct, like the old people on the Titanic that were cuddling in that bed. That's me. That's me in Goodreads. I'm going down with Goodreads. So everything that I would read in private, it would wind up on Goodreads. Like you would know my thoughts and opinions. But I think that what I really want in my retirement era in 2024 is like the reality of treating BookTube as a hobby. Because to me, treating it as a hobby would mean that there is sometimes I'm going to put effort into this thing. I don't think that like people who have like hobbies, like they half-ass them. So I like the idea, like to me, treating it as a hobby would still be me trying to find a collection, like trying to have a video idea that I think sounds interesting, that I can make work, but also have the majority of my, well, not even the majority, because the patrons would still get to, dictate at least between 12 and 24 books. Sometimes there's two books in a vlog. Sometimes it's a standalone. It depends. on my mental state. It depends on the size of the books. It just, variety. But so between 12 and 24 books dictated by the patrons, I think that that's fair for what I offer. So I'm okay with that. I'm okay with them choosing that 24 books. So that's like a quarter of my reading. It could be up to a quarter of my reading when I go back to reading just 100 books a year or whatever. But I do like the idea of just, some of my reading. Like, even if it's just a third. Like, even if between the 6 to 12 videos I post here in 2024 and the monthly vlogs that they get and the sprints that they get and whatever else we come up with over there, for the patrons, for some fraction of my reading to just be mine. To like read a book and just read and the thing about it is I read so quickly that I often am just like, it's not even worth me stopping to like film it like a mid update, because in the back of my mind I'm like, okay, so I've picked 10. This is my other broken brain syndrome. It's like, okay, Monty, I know I can read 13 books in a week or whatever. When I was reading that, like the last dozen books for the Kenya vlog, I read in a week. I was knocking them out. I was fighting for my life in that jungle for an arbitrary date. There was no specific, like, the only reason that video went up when it did was because I was like, it's gonna be the end of the month and I did not want things to roll over, which again, broken brain, there was no reason. There's no, who out there said that, Monty, you can't upload this video in December? Nobody, literally nobody. Nobody came to me and said you can't do that. I think that the closest this year that I've gotten to reading books for me and not for content was kind of the books I read for Vlogmas. Those were books that I had checked out, that I thought were interesting, that I wanted to read at some point during the year, and I just kind of got to read them. But all of those books featured in a Vlogmas video. So all of those were like a little reading vlog moment. They were kind of a review moment. Like, none of them were really for me, but it was like the closest that I've had to reading. And as stressful as it might have been to like try and not force myself, but to finish the book, because again, this is a broken brain, just me out here in my own, I often make content the way that I like to consume content. And the way that I like to consume a reading vlog is that I get your beginning thoughts, your middle thoughts, and your end thoughts all in the same video. Now, obviously, if I'm subscribed to you, I'm going to watch all of your content. So I understand there's going to be overlap. I see it. But the way that I personally like it is when I get the beginning thoughts and the end thoughts all in the same video. And so for me, it feels very, and again, this is just me. I'm not saying people who do this are actually this way, but to me, it feels very rude a little. Rude just doesn't even feel like the right word, but there's something about like asking someone to come back and see another video to get the end thoughts that feels like I've lied to you. And I did that a couple of times towards the end of the month, where it's just like, I couldn't finish this thing in the day. Like, there was no way that I was going to motivate myself to finish this thing in not even a 24-hour period. We're talking in a 12-hour period from the time that I get up to the time that I was going to bed, and not even that full 12 hours, because, I might be up in the morning, but I'm trying to cram all this reading in the afternoon, because again, broken brain. So it's like, that poorly devised system was the closest I got to having books that were just for me. And even the books that were just for me, I was sharing with y'all. So I think that's what I've been thinking through as I gather books for my 2023 projects, as I think about what retirement really means. Like, what am I actually going to be doing here? Because I have invested equipment. I have that microphone, I have a ring light, I have a camera. So it's like, obviously, I'm not just getting rid of this stuff. So I do want to use it. I do like the community that we have here. I like the people that I've interacted with. And so I don't think I could ever fully just like dip out. I've not reached that point. But I do want to reclaim some of my reading for me. And I think the way that I'm going to have to do that is to allow myself some long form projects, to allow some structure to the reading, but to also make peace with the fact that there can be books that I read that I don't talk to y'all about. Because I'm about to break my silence on a certain book that will not be named, because we're at the end of the year, so we're gonna talk about it. So I do want some books that I can share with y'all. I don't know what that'll mean when I'm in my hobby era and I want to make end of the year content. I don't know if I'll be including books that I read just for me in that. That'll be a problem for Future Monty. Future Monty got a lot of problems on its plate, and I am trying to keep up with what we got here in the past. But this has been a 15-minute introduction to a vlog that I didn't mean to start this early, but I'm currently sitting. Let's move out. So that's the thoughts that I had there. Transitioning into the actual title of the video. It is currently the 28th. I am at 173 books read for the year, and that is an ugly number. I don't like the number. We're going to change the number. So I want to get to 175. That seems perfectly reasonable if I choose correctly here. So I'm going to the library. I'm returning Election by Tom Perrotta. I read that during Vlogmas. I'll leave it up in the cards or whatever. So I'm going there to return that book. I meant to return it yesterday when I returned everything else that I checked out, but it's going to work out for me because I have 2 new holds that came in today. I'm also having my fingers crossed that Anastasia by Sophie Lark is out of processing and I can check that out while I'm there. I don't think it's going to happen, but I would like that to be the case. But even if it's not, so I'm getting out those 2 books that I won't be able to share with you. But I do want to do some more perusing, even though I was literally just perusing yesterday. And has anything changed between yesterday and today? No, probably not. But yesterday I went in with the intent to only check out books that I knew I was going to read next year for those videos. And so I only checked out books for those videos. And now I need to have books available that I could read for the end of the year video, for my last 2 reads of the year. Obviously, I have unowned books. I've been moving those to a shelf. They fit on one shelf, so I like that. But a lot of those books are also a little chunky, and some of those books that I own that are unread are also for video ideas. So I might rearrange my bookshelves, but that would mean that the one shelf, I think my paperback shelf, because that's how I have them separate. I have hardbacks on the one shelf and paperbacks on the other. I think if I moved everything from my paperback shelf over to my hardback shelf, that I don't think the weight would be distributed evenly. But I also have that's the other thing. I put together those bookshelves, and when I put them together, they were already not the most sturdy bookshelves in creation. So did I spend some money? Did I spend IKEA prices on those bookshelves? Yes. But if I ever move, would I trust myself to bring those bookshelves with me? Absolutely not. I would think it's amazing that they have stood up for the past 3 years, going on 3 years, if we're being honest here. So that's also a thing. I don't trust them to move. So I'm also kind of okay if they fall apart. But so that's my goal at the library, is to return Election and to maybe find some books that I can read for this video. What is up? So I can take these off because I'm not about to drive. I sat in the library parking lot for a really long time thinking I was just gonna do the haul there. And then cars were coming and going next to me. And I said, that's how long I've been here, that y'all have gone into the library, done what you need to do, and have left multiple times. So I said, let me go home, because clearly I'm not doing the update here. So I have a handy book bag, and this is gonna be annoying because obviously I don't want to pull out books that I'm trying to hide for content that's next year. So I had some strategies. I was in the library and I wanted things that would go quickly, and I wanted things that I could read for me because I was still playing in my mind the discussion I had with you guys. And so I was like, what are books for me that I think could still make interesting content, like books that I still might have thoughts and opinions on, and what is something that I could get through in the next 2 days. So none of these are particularly long. I am a little annoyed by one book, but it's fine. So let's start going through them, shall we? I'll start off with the paperbacks because they're paperback. The first I have here is The Charm Offensive by Allison Cochran. I checked this out earlier in the month and I returned it. I think I literally returned this book yesterday, and I checked it out right again. Anyway, we're going to talk about that. I'm vaguely intrigued about Kiss Her Once for Me. This, I believe, is dual perspective. So we'll see what I think, but I'm very nervous about this. I think that there was a moment when we collectively agreed that, you know, how do I say this? There was a time when I first got on BookTube where the only male romances like this one were being written by cis women. I guess you could even go, you know, maybe there's a trans woman out here doing it. Maybe there was even some queer women doing it. But I feel like we collectively agreed that was weird. It was weird, and they need to like go out and do this. And then Becky Albertalli got on the internet and said that people had harassed her out of the closet, and it was kind of like the death of own voices. And it was kind of just like, oh, so we can stop trying to find male romances written by men. And and here's the thing: do I think that the internet needed to harass Becky Albertalli? No. I don't think that. Like, you can be a queer person, but that does not mean that every queer story is yours to tell. It just isn't. Do I think that there's overlap between being, you know, a Simon Snow, a Jewish gay boy living in Georgia, and Becky Albertalli? I think she even is bisexual. But so as a bisexual Jewish person living in Georgia, I'm sure there's overlap. I'm sure there's similarities. And I'm sure that it's nice to be able to give some of your experiences to a person who is not like you. But some of that, well, actually, Simon Spear wasn't the Jewish character. Blue was the Jewish character, but Blue was also black. Like, there's a whole lot of stuff happening over in that weirdness that is Love, Simon. Or Simon versus the Homo sapiens. It's just weird. It's just weird. And it's like Becky Albertalli came on the internet and said, I'm being harassed. And it's just been like, okay. And suddenly, every time I see a male romance being talked about on BookTube, is written by someone who is not a man. Not a trans man. Not a cis man. Not like literally no kind of person. Like, not even like a genderqueer person. I would say a genderqueer person at this point over a cis woman. But that's just me. But here we are. We got Allison Cochran. Weirdness. I have Allison Wisdom's The Burning Season. I just like the font. I saw the font on the spine, and I said I would like to read this. I believe it's set in Texas. There's like a religious cult situation. I probably won't read this because it is a Harper book, but if I'm reading books for me, I might read it anyway because they said to read it. So Allison Wisdom, it's like a religious cult situation happening in Texas. There are some mysterious fires happening. She thinks, the wife that we're following in this thinks that the church has something to do with it, and the church is like, they're holy fires. Like, sounds like it could be a good time. Then I have some books that I'm on the fence about. These are books that I kind of wanted to read in tandem, you know, like two very similar type things, but that's obviously not going to work out, which is why I have that romance, that weird cult book, and then we have these. All three of the next books I have are mysteries. So first I have El Casamano's Finley Donovan is Killing It, because y'all just won't let this book go. Y'all just won't let this book go. Y'all say that this is God's gift to the cozy mystery genre. I don't know if I believe it, because y'all were saying the same thing about Four Aunties and a Wedding. For Dial A for Aunties, that's what it was. And Dial A for Aunties was horrible. It was one of the worst books I've ever read. So we'll see if this is fun. We'll see if this is for me. Then I have Death Notice, a mystery by Todd Ritter. This is the true name, the man behind the mask that is Riley Sager. And I'm curious. It's his debut, and I'm intrigued. I read, what was that book? Final Girls? And I like Final Girls. Final Girls was cute. So maybe I'll read this. This is pretty short. It looks like it's under 300 pages. It is not. It is 326 pages. So this, I feel like, could pair nicely. You know, like two little contemporary mysteries. Could be a good time. And then I also wanted two kind of like historical mystery options. But that little, what is it? The Veronica Speedwell? It was saying it was at the library. It was saying it was in the fiction section. And I walked over to the fiction section, and that shit wasn't there. So I put in for a hold because it's saying it's available. And I said, let the librarians deal with it. Like, maybe it's saying that it's, you know, over there, but they got it tucked away. I don't know. But I wasn't going to play hide and seek for it. And I wasn't invested enough to, like, go over to the circulation desk and be like, where is it? I said, I'm going to let y'all deal with it. I'll let y'all, it's your space. I'm just visiting. And so I have The Mitford Murders by Jessica Fellows. This is kind of set, it is set, I believe, in the 1920s. Yes, it's 1920s, and it's 1920, and 18-year-old Louisa Cannon dreams of escaping her life of poverty in London. So it's like a mystery. Obviously, somebody dies. This is the whole series. I've checked this book out at least 3 times this year. I have thought about reading this series so many times this year. And so many times this year, I have not read the book. And if I'm reading books that I want to read, that I think I'm going to, I wanted to read this book so badly. I think it was, these are Macmillan books. Macmillan at some point reached out and they offered me a different Jessica Fellows book. And I think I said, yeah, sure, send it to me. I want to read it. Or it was like on the little list of things, and I just never downloaded the ARC or never clicked even add it to my shelf because I was like, I didn't even read the other Jessica Fellows. And the only reason I wanted this Jessica Fellows was because I want to read this one. And so this is probably getting read. This is probably getting read because me and Jessica Fellows, we've had a bond. All year we've had a bond. So it's probably going to be this one and then one of these. It might be Jessica and Todd. That's what we might do. We might be Jessica and Todd. I don't know. I think this is also a female main character. Perry Hollow, Pennsylvania has never had a murder. At least not... Can I read? At least not as long as Cat Campbell has been police chief. Ooh, it's a police chief. And this is also a series. This is like a trilogy. So my library had the first book and had the third book. And I said, book 2 has been checked out. Like Todd Ritter just popping like that. I mean, I don't think he is. To be fair to Todd, I don't think he is. Because I don't think Todd has published a book since he wrapped up this trilogy and became Riley Sager. So I think this is what we're going to go with. You already know because you've seen the thumbnail. But Pat, like, this is my guess. This is my guess of what we're doing here. It's the same day. But I can't stay long. I can't ramble. And I don't need to ramble. It's very quick. But Aaron is reminding me to do some sprints, which is why I can't ramble. I need to get home. I got 20 minutes. But this is why you let librarians library. Like, not sooner than I put all those books back in my bag and I'm walking up the stairs to get back into my apartment. Do I see this is being held? It's being held. It was not on the shelf. It was not on the shelf. I don't know where this shit was. I don't know where it was. But it wasn't on the shelf, but they found it. So you know what? That's all I care about. That's all I care about. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to let the people in the sprints choose what I start with. Y'all can see the title. Me, right here, this Monty, he living in bliss. Editing Monty, he'll be laughing at me.
What is up? I'm coming in with a mid-book. It's not even a mid-book. I'm on page 102, I want to say. Yes, about to be on page 103. I'm about to start. Can I talk? Can I enunciate? The start of chapter 14 of The Mitford Murders by Jessica Fellows. This, I don't know, it's really not giving. So we're following our girl Louisa, who is going to be a nanny, and we are also following these 2 detectives. And the detective storyline is a lot more interesting than the storyline with Louisa, because it just is. So Louisa is vaguely aware of this woman who dies, Florence Nightingale Shore, who is the goddaughter of the Florence Nightingale, because this is set in the 20s, so okay. And so Louisa's going to be this nanny. We've seen her with her uncle, who was like being very sketch, and Flo is the person who dies on the train. She is going to like do some business or something, and she gets murdered on the train. And so the 2 detective characters that we're following are investigating her murder, and they get linked in with our girl Louisa because Louisa is on the train with her uncle. She jumps off the train. They try to like rescue her, they patch her up so she can go to this nanny interview. And so she does that, and she gets this little trial probationary period, and that's kind of where I'm at. And it's just, there's not a lot happening. I feel like with Louisa, she's not really tied into the murdering, and we know that she's connected to the titular Mitfords, and the Mitfords are going to have something to do with all of this because that's the name of the series. It's the Mitford murders, and so it's just like, okay, so where are we going? What are we doing? And then the two detective characters, they obviously have something to do, so we get to see them investigating. We get to see them talking to the coroner. So it's just like, it feels weird that she's front and center, and her, I think it's like her sister, her cousin, her acquaintance Nancy is at least like invested in the death of Florence Nightingale Shore. She, like, they're currently on a train to go visit London, I think, and Nancy's like, oh, we got to sit in the same car that she was murdered in, and this could be this and this could be that. And it's like, obviously I don't think Nancy's gonna solve the murder, but at least she's invested, she's intrigued by it. And Louisa's is like, I need a paycheck, I'm here for the paycheck. Could we not sit in this car? Like, there are so many empty carriages, can't we go sit in one of them? And so I'm interested to see where this goes and what Jessica Fellows does with it. But maybe all those times I returned this book to the library unread, I was doing myself a favor. But we'll see. I'm going to try and keep an open mind. We have like 13 minutes left on the sprint, so I'm going to go do some more reading. I don't think I'm going to check in at the halfway point unless something like really interesting happens, but we'll see. Also, this book like spans a couple of years. The prologue was in like 1919, and the prologue was in 1920. Then the first couple of chapters were at the tail end of 1919, and I think this book goes into 1921, 1922. So like, it feels like we're covering a lot of ground for a mystery, and I don't know if that's something I personally want. But we'll see. I'm gonna have faith. I'm not gonna judge it too harshly just yet.
Good morning, BookTube. It's me. We're back. I'm updating because I've read almost 200 more pages since the last time we spoke. I also feel the need to clarify. Yesterday, I don't know how the update looks for yesterday, because when I was filming the update, StreamYard was like glitching out on me, and so I don't know if it was too much for my computer. So if you saw the previous update, there was some confusion happening. So I'm going to clarify some of that. But if you didn't see the update, because when I put it into Premiere, it was fucked up, just know I tried to give y'all an update at like 102 pages. I'm now on page 291, and this book is boring. I think that Past Monty just knew. Like, Past Monty just knew that I was not going to enjoy this, and so it's a flop. 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 It's not bad. Like, it's not good, but like calling it bad just feels a little mean, because it's not bad, it's just boring. So the clarifications: our main character is still Louisa, what is her last name? Cannon. Louisa Cannon. So Louisa Cannon was 18 at the start of this book, and she was, living with her mother, and I think her aunt or her grandmother, some other relation. She was living with her mom. There were 2 women in this house besides her. So it was her mom, this other woman, and her uncle, Steve. And was it Steve? Her uncle was like this weirdo. And so at the beginning of the book, her mother is not making a lot of money. Like, they're living in the poor tenement housings of London in 1920s. And she does not view London as like this metropolitan mecca. We're fresh off the heels of World War I. So like, people are a little sad. She talked about how what was that in hers? It might have been the prologue. So like, it's real ragamuffin out here in London streets. It's not glitz and glamour as one would associate, I guess, with the 1920s. And so she really wants to, get out and not have to worry, because she knows that her mother is out here struggling to, feed all of them, because her uncle is a good for nothing. And sometimes he swings by with some money, but most of the time he ain't swinging by with shit. Like, he a freeloader. And so she's trying to get out. And so one day she like runs into one of her old friends, and her old friend is like, hey, the wealthy, I think it's like a baron. It's like, hey, the guy, the family I work for, they are looking for a nanny. So like, you should do this. Like, you should be the nanny. And so our main girl, Louisa's like, bet, I'm going to do that. I'm going to get there. And so on her way to this interview is when she links up with her good for nothing uncle, who like low-key like kind of tries to kidnap her. There's some foolishness. I was very uncomfortable. And so she is, you know, trying to get away from him. And that's when she runs into our other perspective character, Guy Sullivan. Guy Sullivan works for the like train police. I don't know anything about that because I don't live in the UK. So I guess there's like train police. Maybe maybe the Amtrak has train police, but I've never used the Amtrak. So I have no sense of bearing here. So he and his partner are like kind of the odd one out because both of them were denied service in World War One. His partner had I think he had like asthma or something, and Guy Sullivan was just too short, and he might have had some other medical condition, but he's a shorty, so I guess hashtag short king. Anyway, so she in our girls escape, she's like, she runs into Guy Sullivan. They kind of have like a meet cute. It's supposed to give like romance, but like I didn't get any sparks. I didn't feel the chemistry. And so because of all of this shit that was happening on the train, she is late to the interview. And the reason it's important to know that they're late on the train is because at this time the prologue has happened. Like I guess it's like kind of concurrent, and the death happens. The death happens on the train. So Florence Nightingale Shore, the goddaughter of the Florence Nightingale, is dead. She is murdered on the train. We find out later that she was bashed 3 times with a revolver, and the killer slipped off the train. We don't know how, we don't know why, we don't know who, we don't know none of this. And so we leave Guy Sullivan and we are following Louisa to this interview where she is showing up late because the train was delayed. She looks raggedy. The people of the house, I don't even think it's like the baron and the baroness or whatever, but like the house manager person's like, bitch, we are not doing this. Like, sorry, like look at you. Look at the state you're in. And she's like, but please, I need this job. I need the job. You know, I don't want to do this. And through a series of events, she's able to, you know, the people at the house are willing to work with her and she gets the job. So now we're following her be a nanny to 16-year-old Nancy because the 2 small children got somebody else taking care of them. And so Louisa is kind of like Nancy's companion. And for most of the book, the bulk of the middle of the book, Nancy is like really intrigued about what happened to Florence Nightingale Shore. She's like, this woman died on a train and they don't know how, they don't know who, they don't know what. And so like we go on a little excursion where Nancy is like super invested in trying to figure out what happened. Guy and his partner are trying to figure out what happened, but nothing happens. Like we don't really have an investigation. Like no investigating is really happening to the point where I'm at in the book now is 2 years later. Nancy's about to be 18. Guy Sullivan been fired because they closed the case, but he was still going around talking about, oh yeah, I'm a police person, and I'm here to investigate this incident. And of course I got back to the people, like his boss. Of course I got back to them, so he's been sacked. What is her name? Fucking Louisa just got sacked. She just got fired from being the nanny. And mind you, it's called the Mitford Murder Series. The Mitford is Nancy. Nancy's the Mitford. So the whole book, I feel like I'm just following the wrong person. And it's just like, why are we here? Why do we write a murder mystery if we're not gonna even like mystery, you know? Like, I don't really feel like there's a mystery element to this. I feel like I've been bamboozled, I've been swindled into reading like, it's not even like historical, like it is historical fiction because it's like 1920s like UK. But it doesn't even give you like historical vibes. It doesn't even give you like the soft historical vibes of a Taylor Jenkins Reid. It's just like, we're out here for what? What are we out here for? Like, what are we doing? What is the point of this kind of a thing? And I don't think there is a point. And so I'm not having a good time. But I was productive, you know. I did read 291 pages of this yesterday with Aaron. But we were on Aaron's live for 6 hours. We did 6 hours of live, and I still got pages. Let me go. The longer I spend talking with you, the longer it's going to be until I am done and able to put out these things. So we'll catch up in a little bit. You might hear the crinkling of the little sun visor thingy, whatever it's called, to like block the sun, because the lighting was not in my favor. I don't need like blinding light over half of my face, but don't do it. Anyway, we are here because we have some updates. Yesterday I was in the car. I had these really lofty goals. When I came back from the library on, what was that, Wednesday? lofty goals. I was like, ooh, yes. Yes, I could totally read 7 books. Bitch, I could barely finish this. I could barely get through the end of this. I think I checked in and I had like 100-ish pages to go. I was on page like 291. I sat down to read this last night, or I laid down to read this. I said, you know what? It's like 11 o'clock. Let's do some reading. Haven't done no reading all day. Let's do it. So I pick it up and I read the end of the book, and it was a shit show. It was a shit show. The third act of this book is a goddamn mess. So, in case you haven't been following, we've been following Louisa. We last left off, she'd been fired. Guy had been fired. This woman had been dead for 2 years. Ain't no killer caught. They're still going along to get along, trying to find the killer. And Jessica Fellows was like, oh, damn, I only got 100 pages left. I guess I got to wrap it up because we've been meandering through fuckery. So in the last part of this book, we had a red herring. And that red herring involved a suspect who murdered his battlefield boyfriend because they might have just been friends. They might have been clapping them cheeks in the trenches. I don't know. It was giving clapping cheeks in the trenches to me, but maybe that was just a battlefield boyfriend. Maybe they were just trauma bonded. But this character was someone who had come from wealth, who had, a father that would feel some type of way if he committed suicide. And so he talked his little battlefield boyfriend into taking his identity and committing suicide. So he could commit suicide as the friend, and the friend would replace him. And somehow, nobody noticed that these were just different people. What? Anyway, so we have this, switcheroo place, but it's not even, oh, I'm going to go commit suicide. We had to hear about how the man couldn't commit suicide. He shot, but he was such a bad aim that, 1, apparently, he didn't even have the heart to kill the little trench rats. And 2, he missed. And so the bullet didn't go nowhere near him. And so now he is sobbing and pleading and begging his little battlefield boyfriend to shoot him with the gun in his mouth. He put the gun in his mouth and he's sobbing, talking about, you got to pull the trigger. And so now the battlefield boyfriend, not only is it part of this little bury your game moment, so now he's killed the battlefield boyfriend and he is going back to England to impersonate him after the war. He's going to his grandma's house. He going to, mind you, she's senile. She in a care facility talking about, oh yeah, he come to see. It's weird, wild, fuckery, foolishness. But of course that was a red herring. The killer is unmasked and they're like, oh yes. And mind you, the entire time they're unmasking this person, it's been 2 years and Guy Sullivan don't have a job no more. He's no longer trained police. No longer trained police guy. He's just a regular citizen at this point. But he's still investigating, still talking to people. And at one point, he and Louisa, they go to his old commander or whatever his name, rank and title is. They go to him and they're like, we think it's the battlefield boyfriend guy, right? They're like, we think it is him. We think it's the red herring killer. We think it's him. We have these reasons. It's airtight. And the commander person looks at them and he goes, y'all have no evidence. It's just a bunch of conjecture. A bunch of, y'all think it's your theories. It's cute. But what am I supposed to do with this? And when they finally get the killer, it's still more theories. I feel like there's not very much hard evidence against the person who did the murdering. And part of that is because I realized at the end of this book, there's a page after the end of the book, that apparently Florence Nightingale Shore was a real person who was murdered on this train, and her killer was never caught. And so Jessica Fellows said, I'm going to take this historical event and I'm going to make it into a murder mystery. And suddenly, and apparently the Mitfords are also real people, but she fudged some of the details to because I guess Nancy doesn't turn 18 at the time where Nancy turns 18 in this. But I was just you just took real people and you, no wonder this book is boring. No wonder. I feel if you were going to fudge some details, fudge some more, I feel bad for the Mitfords. They deserve better than this. Florence Nightingale Shore, she deserved better than this. The person they accused of her murder deserves, the person that goes to jail for this in this book would definitely walk. They would get a lawyer, and that lawyer would get them out in 3 seconds. And you know what? More power to them. More power, because they have, for what? It was foolishness. So I will not be continuing on this series at all. Then I have to pick up The Charm Offensive. This is going to be book 175. I was actually getting set down to read this. I had some laundry going. I had my breakfast, and then got a notification that I had some book mail. So I said, let me go pick up my book mail. But yeah, I'm picking this up. This is a male romance set on some kind of reality dating competition. We'll see. We'll see how I go. But I'm very much looking forward to this. I don't know if I'm going to, not looking forward. I'm looking forward to finishing it. That I can say that with confidence. I don't know how many updates I'm going to do for this. I have a feeling that I'm just going to read this for the reading sprints, like the little replay that I'm watching, and be done with it. So that's that. Then we can update about yesterday's book mail. So yesterday, I got Kiss Her Once for Me by Allison Cochran, which is great because you will definitely see this in a 2023 video project that I will be doing. So I have this now. Love this. This is the Sapphic Pacific Northwest. This person, one of these people, I don't know who's supposed to be who, but one of these characters is it's not even like fake married. I think they're actually getting married to somebody they meet, like the bar landlord, somebody in this woman's life. They're getting married. So I'm assuming we have a bisexual character, at least. Maybe it's a pansexual character. I don't know. Maybe they won't even identify. So she's getting married to this man. But when they go back home to like meet his family and like interact and be like, see, I got married, give me my inheritance in the will, I'm gonna get some money, you're gonna get some money out of this. The female main character realizes that she had actually hooked up or had a relationship with that person's brother. And I'm very interested to see how that's supposed to make sense. I'm very much interested to see like what this character's last name is. I feel like I've been told that the other character, like the love interest by Tammy, is an Asian character. And so like, I guess in that point, maybe it would be very racist to assume that all Asians are related. So I guess that's how Allison Cochran got around it. Maybe. But again, I'm very much interested in what the last name is, because I am very much the person, if I see a last name and it's like, that's just a very strange last name. You know, your Smiths, your Jones, your Johnsons, your Williams, okay, congratulations, you're probably not related. But like, some names are a little too specific, and it's just like we gotta bust out the family tree. Because you can tell me you're not related, but I think the family tree gonna say something different. You know what I mean? So I'm very interested to see that. I don't have high expectations for this at all, but I won't be reading this until 2023, so it's okay. Maybe by then my expectations will be gone, because right now this is a very buzzed about book, but by the time I plan to read it, I don't think it will be. So looking forward to reading that. Thank you to Melanie. And then today, a little package arrived. I thought there would be 2 packages, and there's just one. But there is still a package showing as delivering, like, or out for delivery on the little informed delivery website. So I'll keep an eye out. So we'll see what happens. But this, I don't even know what this could be. I don't even know what this could be. Oh, this isn't even from Millie. This is from Vina. Vina sent this. Oh, I have a feeling this is... Now I'm nervous. Because when I was walking over, I was like... So Vina sent that, and I was like, oh, I don't even know what this could possibly be, because this is so... It's thin. And I was like running through what I have on my wish list. I don't think anything on my wish list is this thin. But we'll see. This is In the House of Transcendence by Amanda Ross, which I've seen around. I've seen people reading. I've seen people enjoying. So thank you to Vina. I haven't read this one because the author is a friend, but you're interested in hearing my thoughts. Okay, so let's see what this is together. Zora is a necromancer. Some say she's gifted. Others say she's cursed, but her abilities always terrify her. Hate that already. I don't like... Here's the thing. If you're going to have magic in the book, have magic in the book. But I don't need the main character running afraid. I don't need the main character afraid of it. Anyway, let's see. Hoping to start a new life, she flees her childhood home and travels to Savannah. But she soon learns that some things can't be changed. There, she meets an alluring and powerful witch named Birdie. She offers Zora a proposition. She'll give Zora a place to stay, a job dancing at a magical burlesque club called Nightingales, and help controlling her powers if Zora can solve her lover's murder. Okay, why? Okay, but why? I'm assuming because Zora is a necromancer. Let's reason through this together. So I think that Birdie thinks that if Zora has a handle on her powers, she can like talk to this lover's like body entity spirit, and the spirit will be able to tell them like the person that murdered them. Because otherwise, I don't really understand why Birdie would assume that Zora could help with that. So I think that's Birdie's line of reasoning, but we still got more than one synopsis. Zora accepts Birdie's offer. Of course she does. She's homeless. Or is it she? Yeah, they've been using she pronouns. Is soon drawn into the magical community of Savannah, where rituals and magical fights are performed in grand old homes. Potions can make people float on air, and 3 magical houses vie for dominance. Feels like a lot. Like, this is not a very long book. Not a very long book. So we already have her running away, finding acceptance, trying to get a handle on her powers. But now we have like citywide politicking. And again, this is short. This is 264 pages. I'm going to be open-minded. But Amanda Ross, we in, like, to me, 264 pages is like too long to be a novella. Too long to be a novella for sure, but not quite long enough to be a novel. So I feel like your book, like the plot should reflect that, but we'll see. Let's continue reading. As she tries to put the pieces together and solve the murder, Zora gets caught in the sight of the very forces responsible for the killing. Of course she does. Can she rise up and learn to control her powers and solve the murder, or will her fears cause her to lose it all? Interesting. Interesting. We'll see how I go. We'll see how this goes. I do want to say that I think that the cover, like the illustration of this girl, is beautiful. I do not think that this is a good book cover. I think that it, and I can say it's not a good book cover because of the way that it's laid out. We have like this title that looks, I see it's down here so we don't block her face, but it's not working. And then, you know, this is fine. Like this up, but I also feel like this information, the author should, let's move it to the bottom. And I guess move this to the top. But also, I feel like this would have been just like really nice as like an art print, but not a book cover. Both of these have like really nice textures. They're like that soft matte. I love a soft matte book. I do know that they like show like oil fingerprints, but it's fine. I don't think this is the book that Vina, when I did like, I attempted on Twitter to do like a 12 and 12. Y'all send me your books, but you know, beware. I don't think this is the one that Vina put in that 12 and 12, but there was only 3 books in that I got responded to. So this will probably actually be read because I have it. As I'm flipping through this, are we starting chapters in the middle? Okay, we are not. Whew. What was I reading recently that did that? I was reading a book recently that had the chapter starting in the middle of a page. I hate that, but this doesn't do that. I was just flipping too fast. So this is the book mail. These are my little Christmas presents. One from Melanie, one from Vina. So let me put this in here. I haven't been the best about like, you know, some booktubers are like, ooh. I feel like this isn't the best copyright page either, but you know what? We out here self-publishing. So you doing more than me, Amanda. But I'm gonna tape that in there so I don't forget. So I will check back in once I have read more. Once I've read any of this. I might do a mid-book update just because I'm going to have to go check the package locker again by 8 o'clock tonight. So if I'm not done with this book by the time my next package gets delivered, I will update you. I'll give a mid-book update. Otherwise, I would expect that my next clip is going to close this out because this is another like 14-minute clip. This is turning into a really long vlog. So this might just be one where I read it and I give you my overall thoughts and opinions, because I do think that this is going to be a book where I might not like it up until the middle. And then at the end, I might be like, you know what? It was cute. You know, like sometimes a book is like that. And while it's fun sometimes to document that, I do think that, at least on my channel, with my audience, with how y'all like to claim I hate everything, y'all be really hooking in to the to the first half of my thoughts and opinions, and it's like, okay, yes, I said at the beginning of the book it was this way, but then it gets better. And sometimes I also have to remind myself, like when I think Vina, speaking of things like that, I know that she was reading The Final Strife recently, like a couple months back, and then she was reading Bloodmark, and both books I well, The Final Strife, the first time I read it, I was like, ooh, it's rough at the beginning, but it gets better. But that book don't get better to like 80%. It don't get better to like 80%. Like the story's almost over. Like we are winding down, done, and the story goes from like 1.5 to 2.5. So, not my finest moment, not my finest moment there. But it's fine. It's fine. I will check back in, like I said. I'm gonna go because now we're almost 20 minutes. Lord have mercy. Help me, Lord.
What is up? I wanted to start this off with some positivity, and then I just realized that the sound hadn't been recording. So we're starting over. If I'm a little bitter, that's why. But we are going to start again with the positive part of the update. So my other Amazon package did arrive, and surprise, surprise, it was not for Melanie. I think yesterday when I opened, did I even do that yesterday? Anyway, yesterday when I was telling you I was expecting a package, I assumed that everything was coming for Melanie because they were the only person I had set my wish list to recently. I mean, I know that it's currently in the video description, but for months that shit had been set to private, and I only recently took it off of private. So I wasn't expecting anybody but Melanie to be clicking the link and sending things through. Egg on my face. But Vina also sent me Crazy Rich Asians, which came slightly damaged. Amazon, what were y'all doing? But luckily, I've already read it. So this is just going to sit on the shelf. It's a good thing because this is like one of those oddly narrow mass markets that like there's no way I could read this without breaking the spine. So luckily, I don't have to reread it anytime soon. She also sent me Scandalous Secrets by Synethia Williams. This is the second book in the Jackson Fall series. I know at some point I talked about I wanted some black romance that was fun. Not that I thought all black romance was, drug dealers and and it wasn't that. Although I would but also like that. I would like a drug dealer romance. You can give me that. But I felt that like some of the black romance I was reading it wasn't hitting the way I wanted it to hit. I kind of wanted Honey and Spice, but for the black American, like I wanted that. But I don't think this is going to be that specifically, but it shouldn't be stupidity from what I've heard. So I know we have a Senate candidate. That's him. And that's a love interest. And they're looking cute. And we got a little sunset happening. And this is a readable mass market. It's nice and floppy. The pages, like, look at this. You can open it up. You can get in there. It has decent margins on the inside. So, like, this is a mass market that will get read. When? I don't know. Because my 2023 is booked and busy. But we gonna get to it. So, that concludes my little Christmas book haul of goodies. So, love that for me. But let's go back to Miss Cochran. Let's get to Allison, because that's the reason that we're here. This is my 175th read of the year. We're done. We're dusted. I can't do no more. I've read 3 straight back-to-back 1-star books. What did I do? What did I do, Lord? What did I do to suffer the way that I have been suffering with 3 back-to-back 1-star books? Anyway, if you have somehow been living under a rock and you don't know what the Charm Offensive is about, let me tell you. In this, we are following Dev, who is a talent wrangler producer on the dating show Ever After. Think The Bachelor, but like, for some reason it's called Ever After. It has like a princely vibe. I don't really understand. Like, here's the thing. There have been so many reality dating competition shows in my time, and I guess The Bachelor is the one that has stood the test of time, is outlived A Flavor of Love, and I Love New York, A Rock of Love, A Chance at Love, A Shot at Love with Tila. It outlasted all of the VH1 programming block. So I understand using that. But it was giving like fairy tale prince vibes, and like doesn't really make any sense why. I don't know why we're even set on a reality dating competition, because that didn't really seem to be what Allison Cochran wanted to write. I'm going to get into that. So we have him, Dev. He's the talent wrangler. He, at the beginning of the book, is tasked with like wrangling the female contestants, but that has to be, nixed, because we need him to interact with the love interest, Charles, whatever his goddamn name is. And so Ryan is no longer going to be Charles's producer. Dev is going to produce him. And so really the female like the female cast members of the show, they don't mean anything. We get like hints and like looks at them in some of the books. We're gonna talk about the formatting of this as well. And so there's just like a lot happening here that is foolish. A lot happening here that didn't need to happen. A lot of it. So that's that. Like I said, we're also following Charles. And so Charles is a tech wunderkind. You know, he graduated college at 16. He did not graduate college at 16. He graduated high school at 16. He went to Stanford at like, I guess like 16 and a half, 17 years old, where he founded his first business. It kind of blew up. We know that he was recently let go from that company, and now he's really just been running the Winhan Foundation, which bears the name of the man who like got him kicked out of the other company, but it also is like part of his name. It's weird. We don't know what the foundation does, just that he runs it, and that he doesn't like running it, even though we don't know what it does, or that, you know, he's like running a foundation, but he's acting like he needs to rehabilitate his image so he can get a job. And it's like, you have a job as the head of a like multinational charity organization that you're the head of, and you can do whatever you want to do. So like, if you wanted to have another startup, if you wanted to do techie things, you could do that via the fact. It doesn't make any sense. But anyway, he's trying to rehabilitate his image. How going on an ABC level reality dating show is going to rehabilitate your image for the Silicon Valley crowd doesn't make any sense. So many times I'm reading a romance novel, and this is why I say that a romance novel is really a fantasy, and that you do have to suspend the disbelief. And I think that the writing has to be there for you to do that. Because when I was reading The Love Hypothesis, it was like, you want me to believe that the greatest scientist on earth, Adam Carlson, is being courted by, I think it was like MIT, Boston, Harvard, whatever it was, over in Massachusetts, and Stanford was doing nothing. Stanford said, we're just gonna freeze your money because we think you're gonna leave. And to show them that he wasn't going to leave, he was gonna date a grad student. This is the same man who owns property in Silicon Valley, commutes every day to Stanford, bought a whole house in Northern California, but Stanford said, oh, you're not serious. They're acting like he was renting. Like, anyway, stupid. So many of like the conceits of, I think, poorly executed romance novels is where we fall flat. And so we're falling flat already when we have a man who has no business being on a reality dating competition, trying to be on one to rehabilitate his image. Like, that's the other thing. Like, Dev doesn't have any friends. We know that Dev came to LA 6 years ago, wherein he got lucky. He landed this job on the show. He immediately started dating this coworker of his. So him and Ryan were dating for 6 years. They break up at the start of the book, and now he's going back to work with his ex, which I thought was like stupid that he was so. To me, it's like, I understand that you really like your job, but like, if it is causing you the stress levels that it was causing Dev to like go into the office, like, again, like, it was just fucking foolish stupidity. Either way, it's just like, it was stupid. A lot of this book was just, it was dumb. Like, I came into this book for a reality dating competition, and what Allison Cochran gave me was like some really boring fake dating that didn't make no damn sense. These characters are damn near 30 years old, each of them, talking about, let's go on a practice date. Let's have practice kisses in your hotel room. And I said, Dev, what straight man is having practice kisses in a hotel room? I said, really, Dev? Like, there were some things that were like, to me, were just not clicking. And it's not that I think that I think that if you want to have practice kisses with a man in your hotel room, that doesn't mean that you're a queer individual necessarily. But I was like, it does take a certain kind of person. Like, you would have to unpack things. And that's the other thing. This book is structured in a way where we don't get real chapters, we get blocks of time. So the first part of the book is like the first night in the reality show or whatever. So we see them going through the motions of that. And then it's like the first week, the second week, the fourth week. And so we get like the week time. Like, we know that we are in the fourth week of the show. So we know that 4 weeks have happened. They've had, a month of interacting with one another. But in that chapter, like the week 4, we'll get like 2 scenes with them. It'll flop back and forth between their perspectives, but we get like 2 scenes. And these scenes usually follow after one another, and they reference things that are happening in the ongoing show, but we aren't seeing those things. We're seeing a reflection of them. And sometimes it's not even 2 scenes, it's like 1 scene, it's just taken up for like 50 pages, and then we move on to the next week. And so it's like glimpses into the timeline of these characters. And so when they start talking about, I love you, and I'm jealous, and I want to be with you, but I can't be with you because you're it was just foolish. Like, I don't think that Allison Cochran really gave anybody time to be emotionally invested in the narrative. And then the thing that really got me, the thing that really that really got me, the thing that made me probably the most upset was the fact that we don't get sex scenes. Like, we get the idea of a sex scene. We know that the sex is happening, but it was like some flowery language. And I said, you're making me suffer. And now it's a 2-sentence sex scene. And then the thing that made me, I think that actually the thing that was the most unbelievable was that Charlie's ass was topping anybody. Also, the book it seemed to be inconsistent with anything. Like, I felt like there was a point at the beginning of the book where Charlie was looking up at Dev, and like he was eye line with Dev's Adam's apple, establishing that Dev was taller than him. And also an attractive person. Yes, he has brown skin, so like when he was going on and on about how the West Hollywood gays didn't want him, part of me was like, I'm sure they don't. But I was also like, you're a tall, thin person. So like, I guess your pool of people is narrowed because you have brown skin. But like, you could get anybody. So it was stupid. Then there was like this whole thing about how they were trying to like villainize Dev's ex-boyfriend. And I was like, I don't know how you could villainize a man who was with you for 6 years, who didn't do anything to harm you. Like, okay, he got you a really crappy birthday present 1 year after 6 years of being with you. But like, I see how you're interacting with Charlie, and it's just like, is this even his name? Is this even his name? Yes, okay. His name is Charles. You would think that I wouldn't forget, but I'd be what is even the paranoid? There we go. I'd be paranoid. So it's like, so much of Charlie and Dev's relationship is built on Dev doing his job. Charlie is in here going, oh, he cares about me. He loves, he doesn't love. He's like, oh, he's really appreciative of the fact that I have anxiety and I have OCD, and he's like really connecting with me. And it's like, yes, I'm sure he does care about those things. And like, he's trying to make, he's trying to do his job so you can do what you need to do on the show. But he's also, again, doing his job. Like, his job is to be there for you, to settle your nerves, to get you what you need, to make good television. And it's not going to make good television if you're curled up in a ball somewhere. And so when the foundation of it was like them on this reality show, I felt that was weird because, again, it was just giving, this could have happened, like this same book could have happened. You know what? This is just hit me. So I've never read The Kiss Quotient by Helen Wong, but this book reads kind of like how that book is pitched. Is like, this same story could have happened if they were not on a reality dating competition. If Charlie had been fired, he is looking to establish himself, that he can be serious around people, that he's, fit, and he is like not crazy. Like, that's so much of his hang up, is like, he doesn't want people to think that he's crazy, that he is suitable to be in professional environments, and that he thinks if he can, be in a stable relationship, then he'll be able to get his job back. So if instead of going on this reality like dating show, he, through whatever, rom-com hijinks, met Dev, and Dev had just been recently broken up with his longtime boyfriend, Ryan. And he said, you know what? I will help you. And then they could have done that, and then prevent, like, oh, we're going to build up to like a charity event, that the company throws every fall or something. And we're going to go to this event together. And then after the event, we're going to go our separate ways, or we're going to, do whatever we need to do. Could have had the same plot line could have happened without this stupid reality show, because it did nothing. It did nothing but isolate Dev. It showed that Dev had no friends. He had nobody in his corner, because part of it was he had isolated himself. Part of that, and I understand that sometimes if you have mental illnesses, like, that can happen to you. But it's like, you're a 27-year-old man with no friends, no college acquaintances, no high school person, nobody on the internet, like, nobody. Like, even the people at his job, like, he's acquaintances with them, but they did not strike me as like close personal friends. Which, again, weird. You've been there for 6 years, you don't got no friends. I understand not every job you're gonna have friends, but like, you gotta have something, a little something. So he had 27 no friends, and Charlie at least had a community. Like, Dev's whole community, at a certain point, it went from Dev is producing Charlie, and so it makes sense that he's doing everything he can to support this man. But at a certain point, the narrative kind of switched, and it became, he's not really doing his job anymore. He's not supporting Charlie because it's good for the job. He's supporting Charlie because he has nothing else to do in the narrative. That is his story. Like, the book is dual perspective, so it's both of their books. But it became a point where I just felt like Dev was there to prop up Charlie and to reassure Charlie. And then at the end of the book, Charlie was going to be there and like prop him up, and they were going to prop each other up. And it was just, and I guess that's kind of what you do in a relationship, but it just wasn't giving. It was giving off. So between how foolish it was, between the fact that I didn't get to see that the cheeks getting clapped, it's a no for me. I also want to go on record and say that if there are detailed page sex scenes over here, I mean, I love it for the sapphics because they are in desperate need of some good sex scenes. Of the sapphic books for adults that I've read, desperately, it's a Sahara over there. So good for them. But also, I'm gonna be mad because I read this and I had nothing. I got 2 sentences. 2 sentences wanted me to believe that this white man is out here cracking anybody's back like a glow stick. Get out of here, Allison. But that's it. That's what I got for y'all. What a note to end 2022 on. Let me know down in the comments what your last book of the year was. Did you also give it 1 star, or are you having a better experience? Looking forward to reading that. I'm looking forward to seeing you guys again in 2023. We got great things planned, but I'm going to go. So until next time, bye.